The headlines tonight: Euro MPs' new headsets play the sound of screaming women. Brian Ferry bath mat poisonous, say lab. And bouncing elephantiasis woman destroys central Portsmouth. Those are the headlines. Happy now? Hello, sir. On the day-to-day tonight, MP in heartless outburst after bomb goes off in Hurd's bath.
Well, one bomb's going off in the Foreign Secretary's hand, but all he does is say, well, I didn't need that hand anyway.
And a warm handshake from Michael Heseltine for the children he is about to release into the woods and shoot.
How do you do? Nice to say hello to you.
The Bank of England is in chaos following the discovery that the pound has been stolen. As the news broke, trading rooms were plunged into chaos. Even seasoned campaigners known for grace under pressure reduced to squawking the day's panicked cry.
What's happening?
What's happening? The pound was stolen at 1:30 this afternoon by thieves dressed as cleaners. They drove a white Montego. Helicopter police gave chase, but despite the shunt, the men escaped, making good with their legs across open ground. As city markets crashed and flew off, the government tried to stabilise the economy with an emergency currency based on the Queen's eggs, several thousand of which were removed from her ovaries in 1953 and held in reserve. This meant anyone mad enough to seize on the panic selling of dead pounds could become a dollar millionaire in less than an hour.
How much money have you personally made today?
Probably about 10 million.
Wow.
Throughout the day, bank officials have refused to confirm the rumours that the pound was only vulnerable at all because they removed it to play with at lunchtime and forgot to put it back. Later tonight, we'll be asking Malcolm Rifkin for his view and asking him why he likes pulling the legs off live dogs and shooting foreign policemen.
The day-to-day homicide news.
I'm Alan Partridge. Hello. Rally driving. The championships start tonight, but here's what I got up to this morning. Hi, you join me with Susie Herper, one of this Britain's top lady rally drivers. Susie, you're going to be subjecting me to some atrocious punishment. What's that?
Well, I'm going to take you around the course that I won the rally on recently.
Right, fantastic. And the stickers, what are the stickers for?
Advertising.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Really is that simple. Before we go around the course, just to explain, this is a modern camera that will be watching all my facial movements. It's the size of a slim Panatella cigar. One more thing, it's a great model, it goes like a bomb, and the car's not bad either. Come on, let's go burn some rubber. I see you quite, oh, hey! Hey! Spunky lady!
Hence the bumpiness.
Yeah, you certainly know how to handle this bitch. You keep her in line. I like it. It's good. You take another scruff of the neck and you let it know who's the queen. The car's the bitch. You are the queen and I like it. Yeah, whoa. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Easy. Easy. Whoa!
See what I'm doing with
What's
the
there? What's
steering?
there?
Yeah.
Why are you stupid? Watch out for that! Careful! Well, whilst driving like she was, maybe big and clever on the rally track, it certainly isn't on a housing estate. Remember, lives matter. Chris.
It's been revealed that the junior Treasury Minister, Michael Portillo, carries a sawn-off shotgun to constituency meetings, corners children in parks and chews their cheeks, and has frequent sexual intercourse with stray animals, claiming, as long as it's got a backbone, I'll do it. That story we reported last week and have since discovered it to be untrue. Paul Boteng. Do you feel that young people are taking the right cues from their culture?
I think young people
make a contribution and indeed form the culture in which they live and in which we all live.
How do you feel about some of the more dangerous elements of their cultural melee?
I don't know what you mean by their more dangerous elements.
We're talking bang. I'm talking guns. I'm talking about people like Uzi MC, the Blood Rap movement, Herman the Tosser. How do you feel when young people are presented with the sort of stuff that they're churning out?
I think it's rather sad.
When somebody listens to Herman the Tosser?
And I think that there are very many young people who are turned off by that violence, by that sexism, by that racism, and by that homophobia.
Are you levelling all those accusations at Herman the Tosser?
No, I'm not. Herman the Tosser is not someone who has invaded my own particular consciousness.
And
although clearly he has invaded yours, it is a concern of yours. It sounds to me rather.
It sounds to me too.
It sounds to me rather.
And it sounds to me too.
Rather an unpleasant name, but
name.
he may be a delightful and inoffensive person.
The day today. The last scintilla of doubt just rode out of town.
The American serial killer Chapman Baxter is to be executed today by the dead body of his last victim. Barbara Wintergreen reports.
Florida State Penitentiary and killer Chapman Baxter has dug deep into his past for tomorrow's execution ceremony.
The best kind of justice would be if my last victim, Colin Magnifivent, could be dug up and he could kill me.
At Oregon's Magnifivent Center, Dr. Travis Davely has been fleshing out Chapman's unusual carcass request.
Do the arm movements once more.
Coffin Boffin Travis has undertaken to manometrize Colin Magnifivent, the man who Baxter blasted in the past. He's even helping him to speak from the grave.
There's three sample voices. The first one is a kind of generic voice.
Justice.
The second one is Martin Sheen.
Justice.
And the third one, it's my favorite, Louis Armstrong.
Justice.
All of America is electrified by this vigilante victim. He's appeared in a cavalcade of front covers and chat shows and has squeezed new life into fruit juice ads.
Tangiest fruit juice you've ever tasted. And there ain't no.
Justice.
Live wire Acavito is dating supermodel Kendall Ball, who seems stuck on the stiff.
Colin's kind of cute. He's strong and silent, and doesn't bullshit me like other guys.
Do you get to spend a lot of time alone together?
Well, no, because Travis is always with us, but I kind of like it that way.
I've got this little dream whereby there's a whole village of reanimated corpses, and if you like, a kind of control tower in the center of that village with a bank of monitors, and I control all the corpses.
Why use corpses? Why not normal people? Why don't you just leave things the way they are?
Because normal people, because I wouldn't have my tower. I want a tower.
The day of justice, and Baxter gets to renew his acquaintance with a body of evidence.
In whose voice do you wish justice to be done?
Martin Sheen.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Colin needs a few moments to decompose himself before delivering a stiff charge to Baxter.
Justice.
So, as Chapman Baxter came here to bury his past, looks like his past has come to bury him. This is Barbara Wintergreen, CBN News at the Corpsecution, Florida State Penitentiary.
BBC Mandarins are bleating again, this time because their new soap opera, The Bureau, has just plummeted out of the ratings. A BBC spokesman said, "Don't read too much into the fact that we're sending them out on tour to the regions on the back of a truck. It's not to drum up support, it's just standard policy for all programmes." Have a look, shall we?
Maria?
Yeah?
You know I'm gay? Well, do you think it's possible for a gay man to love a woman?
Of course it is, Guy. There's no rules to love. You've got to follow your heart.
Maria?
Yeah?
I love you.
Watch out, it's Hannity.
Boy, I'm trying to run a high-class bureau de change, not some two-bit nipple peep show in Rio de Janeiro.
Ange, where you been all day? We've been worrying about you.
It's not Ange anymore, actually. It's Mrs. Hennity to you.
cat meows, a horse neighs, a lion roars, a bird sings, a snake hisses, a human barks.
Time now for business with Calately Sisters.
Thanks, Chris.
You do it! Get it now! No, you get it! It's over there!
Arguments like that broke out on the international markets today when economic talks collapsed and Spain withdrew from the world and began trading with itself. The peseta burst open at 4. The pound was barely audible this morning. It rotted by 3.9 points against the dollar, and there was further bad news for coat developers Watney Heckbulb, who were ordered to cease trading because of bad burping. Chris. On now to the money markets and a quick look at the international finance arse. And there you can see the US and Japanese cheeks started off with a gap of 2.4, but increased trading forced the two together to form a unified arse at around lunchtime, which held for the rest of the day. In summary then, oh no, Chris?
For a second night running, London's police are out in force clamping the homeless. The new measures have been in operation since Monday and are already proving successful.
The clamps are bolted on to any homeless person found asleep or motionless after 9 p.m. at night. This is the time when London's street people start accumulating in doorways, many of them drunk and pissed up on booze. The clamps ensure that any homeless who has caused a blockage is forced to stay put when they wake up. They've probably been sick too. They are then prosecuted and punished.
And reaction to the new measures has been strong. So far, we've spoken to Kim Wilde. Does it make you feel bad when they clamp homeless people on the Strand?
When they clamp them?
Yeah. Businesses on the Strand getting in people to clamp them so they can't move away and then they're persecuted. And then they fine them for being in the way.
I didn't know that. That's awful.
Would you call for clamps to be illegalised?
Certainly on human beings. It's obscene.
Environmation from me, Rosie May. A revolution in household heating is sweeping across America. Frozen fire. Normal fire is solidified in special cold furnaces and packaged for home freezer storage. It can then be defrosted at a later date and poured onto logs. Frozen fire saves heat. The echo from the nuclear bomb which destroyed Hiroshima is set to devastate the city again. Half of the original blast has ricocheted off Jupiter and will strike Japan in 2041. It's not yet known whether the city will be evacuated. I'm Rosie May. Tread not on the forest leaves, for you tread on my face.
Today is the anniversary of 1944. People did different things then and lived different lives. This day-to-day reminiscence package features contemporary memories and footage from a time when a 5-speed, 3-litre Ford Capri was the stuff of a madman's dreams.
What was the food situation like in those days?
Oh, it was dreadful. Of course it was dreadful. Sometimes we even had to eat bits of the house, bricks, and the mortar was tastier than the actual bricks because, I mean, after all, that had been mixed up once, and so you could mix it up again. We used to try to get it off other people's houses, of course, first, and houses that had been bombed and broken down. But sometimes you had to eat your own house, and it was better to find yourself without a house than without food.
Electricity was very, very expensive, but you had to have a light of some kind, so we had perhaps, I don't know, we thought it was quite a good idea. You see, babies have such a lot of energy. They're always on the go. So we used to connect the house to a baby, and that used to keep the lights going.
I don't remember much about 1945 because that was the year, that was my hibernation year.
Can I have your name?
Elvis Vickery.
You'd go and get your ticket and find out when you had to hibernate, and then you'd be given just a few weeks to get yourself organised. And, you know, you knew you had to keep going. We got into a box and curled up, and you went to sleep. It was our bit of the war effort, really, to keep ourselves out of the way.
Well, during the war, everybody was called up to be in the war cabinet, and I was called up to be the foreign secretary for a month. So there I was in meetings and having to express opinions, and I had to travel abroad. I went over to France and I met the French foreign minister, and he was really quite impressed because my French really was rather good. So we had conversations with me understanding everything he said and answering him, but whether I answered him properly, I don't know.
This is the day-to-day. Still to come, controversy over new Treasury appointment.
I'm sick to death of this. All I ever get, Treasury, Treasury, Treasury. That's all I ever hear. I'm sick of it. I've had enough. Just all of you, f*** off.
And new anti-shoplifting measures for a B&Q store in Bracknell.
If I catch anybody stealing anything from the shop, then I shoot him through the mouth with this.
The number of MPs in Westminster suffering from Slemmel's disease has risen to 22.
Slemmel's disease is caused by a brain virus that affects the victim's ability to read. They can see the words but have no idea what they mean. Baroness Trumpington was the first to show signs 2 weeks ago. She may have caught it from a badger. Then John McGregor. The virus is highly infectious and lives in peppermints. This was the moment Peter Lilly realised he too was in trouble. Slemmel's also affects leg-eye coordination, causing victims to walk straight past places they intend to stop.
So, could you... Hey!
By last Friday, William Waldegrave had little control over his body. Teddy Taylor followed. And Jimmy Knapp severely. Most seriously of all, on Monday, John Patton showed unmistakable signs, failing to recognise familiar surroundings and objects. Clearly having no understanding of the day's briefs. The second document proved equally mysterious, and the third he couldn't even be bothered to try. And the disease shows no sign of stopping. This morning Malcolm Rifkind appeared lost when he was just 20 yards from his office.
Doctors say the only treatments they can offer so far are rubbish.
A man sees God in his car. He crashes.
Today's historic trade agreement between Australia and Hong Kong marks a new season of hope for the future of world trade. The two countries have been at each other's throats for years, but now the hatchet's been buried by a treaty which allows unrestricted trading between all parties at all levels. I'm joined now by Martin Crace, the British Minister with special responsibility for the Commonwealth, and Gavin Hawtrey, the Australian Foreign Secretary in Canberra. Gentlemen, this is pretty historic stuff. Well done. A future of unbridled harmony then, Australia?
Yes, I think Martin Crace and I can be pretty satisfied. It's a good day.
And if, as in the past, Australia exceed their agreement, what will you do about it?
This is a very satisfactory treaty, which I'm sure will work well. Naturally, if the limits were exceeded, then this would be met with a firm line, but I can't see this being necessary.
Mr. Hawtrey, he's knocking a firm line in your direction. What are you going to do about that?
Well, in that case, we just reimpose sanctions as we did last year.
Sanctions? Hang on a second. They've only just swallowed their sanctions and now they're burping them back up in your face.
I think sanctions is rather premature talk. Certainly, if sanctions were imposed, we should have to retaliate with appropriate measures. But I
think
can't...
appropriate measures is a euphemism, Mr. Hawtrey. You know what it means. What are you going to do about that?
Well, I just have to go back to Cabinet.
And ask them about what?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a matter for the military.
The military?
I think military measures is totally inappropriate reaction, and I think this is way, way over the top.
Sounds like you're being inappropriate, are you?
Of course I'm not being inappropriate. Martin Crace knows that full well.
This is the sort of misunderstanding that I thought we'd laid to rest during our negotiating period.
Misunderstanding it certainly is. It's certainly not a treaty, is it? You're both at each other's throats. You're backing yourselves up with arms. What are you going to do about it? Mr. Hawtrey, let me give you a hint. Bang!
What are you asking me to say?
You know damn well what I'm asking you to say. You're putting yourself in a situation of armed conflict. What are you plunging yourself into?
You'd like me to say it?
I want you to say it, yes.
You want the word?
The word!
I will not flinch.
You will not flinch from?
War.
War. Gentlemen, I'll put you on hold. If fighting did break out, it will probably occur in Eastmanstown in the Upper Cataracts on the Australia-Hong Kong border. Our reporter Donald Bethlehem is there now. Donald, what's the atmosphere like?
Tension here is very high, Chris. The stretched twig of peace is at melting point. People here are literally bursting with war. This is very much a country that's going to blow up in its face.
Well, gentlemen, it seems you have little option now but to declare war immediately.
Well, this is quite impossible. I couldn't take such a decision without referring to my superior, Chris Patton. He's in Hong Kong.
Good, because he's on the line now via satellite. Mr. Patton, what do you think of the idea of a war now? I'll take that as a yes.
Very well, it's war.
War it is.
That's it, Chris. It's war. War has broken out. This is a war.
That's it. Yes, it's war. From now on, the Day-to-Day will be providing the most immediate coverage of any war ever fought. On the front line and in your face, Donald Bethlehem.
Standing by, Douglas Hurd.
The Day-to-Day smart bombs have nose-mounted cameras. This is Smart Bomb Stephen, and that is Susanna Gekelois.
I'll be reporting from inside the fight.
Like some crazy Trojan. And keeping an eye on everything that's going on out there at the Day-to-Day news pipe, Douglas Trox.
Chris.
But first, the weather from Sylvester Stewart.
And now the weather, starting in the southeast, where the sun should plop through after a dull start, a bit like having your hand sewn back on after a farming accident. Let's revolve the weather collar now, 70 degrees to the Midlands, where I was first bereaved. And there'll be a large cack of heavy cloud covering the area, but it should stay dry enough for you to dance outside until our Lord Beelzebub calls upon us. Now, if we rotate the throat circle back to the West Country, and you can see there'll be several gits of bad weather across most of the sky. Some rain, but no more severe than soft porn. In summary then, and that's all the weather.
Back to the war, and on the front line in Eastman's Town, our reporter Donald Bethlehem. Donald, what's the latest?
As I swirled the last traces of toothpaste from my mouth this morning, a soldier's head flew past the window, shouting the word victory.
Seems to be a lot of action behind you there. Have you seen any fighting yourself?
Today I saw an old woman on the ground. She was lying in a pool of her own tomatoes.
Thank you, Donald. Earlier today, I've been down among the fighting myself. This is my report.
There's something about the way these people move that tells you they are a nation at war. Look into their eyes and you can read the words, "I have a reservation at the restaurant of death." It's a messy bistro with a bad name for soiling its customers' clothes. We've seen only one napkin in 4 days. The people here are confused, spending most of their time running about like idiots. Earlier today, we met a family who, thanks to this war, now have no home. A war which they feel anyway has nothing to do with them.
This is not our war. We are being forced to swallow the rotten egg of an angry political goose.
That boy is now a war orphan. One more victim of what they call here the desert confetti. I have a child about his age myself. When I phoned him 10 minutes ago, I told him to move out of the house to make room for his new brother.
Back live now. Progress on the Day-to-Day smart bomb. Jonathan, get rid of Hurd. Thanks.
Well, as you can see, Chris, there's the missile cruising about 2,000 per second, trying to locate the target, the soldier it's aimed at. There's the soldier, it goes in through the mouth, there, down the esophagus, into the stomach. There's the explosion.
Absolutely bang. That's the Day-to-Day, bringing you another tear on the face of the world's mother. Alan, sport.
Thanks, Chris. And now some late-night soccer results. I'm Alan Partridge. This is Division 2. Hull Paragraph 5, Portsmouth Bubblejet 1. Sheffield Hysterical 3, Chunky Norwich 1. Richmond Arithmetic versus Nottingham Marjorie match postponed due to bent pitch. Good night.
Susanna Gekelois has broken through to the front line. This is her contribution to history.
This is the very heart of the conflict. The men here have been fighting non-stop for 3 days. We drove in at night, straight into the middle of a rocket battle.
The air now is thick with what they call here the electric cornflakes. We're under strict instructions not to leave the vehicle, but to drive on through.
With no cover, we ran across open space to a nearby house. We found an injured man. We did our best. There are always casualties in war. There was a family sheltering in the back room. We had no tongue in common, but through the universal language of mutual need, I knew she was saying, "Come, set your equipment up in our refuge. The world must see this mess."
These brave people are now sleeping, but they know that tomorrow our aerials and transmitters could make this house a prime target. Chris.
Back to the war now, and in the noise and heat of what they call here the flying scissor beans,
there is no optimism, or at least wasn't, until just 2 minutes ago when we received these pictures of a miracle from the front line less than a mile from where I'm standing.
This was the scented rose in the bum gut of Satan, for here at 7:13 precisely, the fighting stopped. Soldiers who moments earlier had been shooting each other's teeth out suddenly put down their guns and joined in peaceful commune. Some played games, or like these men, planned a musical. The reason for this outburst of calm lay inside a shed, for here the massed forces of two world powers were unified by nothing more than the distress of a cat stuck on a high shelf. No one knows how it got there, but these brave fighting men, moved by the simplicity of the animal's plight, decided to forget their differences and try to get it down. But even as the men celebrated, their heads were blown clean off. For somebody, nobody knows who, had filled the cat with nitroglycerin.
The Day Today. News from telly to belly.
Just time for a quick look at tomorrow's headlines. Plastic surgeon arrested with stash of stolen mouths. That's in the Express. The Hull Aphrodite, police chief crushes lizard with whistle. There he is, looking wretched. The Daily Mail, child made of paint wins by-election. The Murdoch papers tomorrow, crazed wolves in store, a bad mistake, admit mother care. And there's the same story in The Sun. And the Daily Mirror have a special pull-out note for the milkman, 5 pints, please. They'll be doing 3, 2 and 4 later in the week. That's it. That's the Day Today. On the day, a man on this programme told how he was menaced by Hugh Scully.
He just came in and went out.
That's it. Good night.
Available from now on commercial video. The Day Today, This Is Our War. Featuring the men and women who sacrificed themselves at the altar of fact and the beat of over 1,000 pop classics.
Dreadlock holiday. Dreadlock holiday. Clap, 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 clap. So we on a lady. You really got me. You really got me. Gotta stop sucking up. Gotta stop sucking up. Yeah, yeah. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. I'm wishing on a star.
The Day Today, This Is Our War. Bang after bang after bang after bang.